Welcome everyone. I believe this is episode 8 of the Catalyst Marketing Rant. It is July 20th, I think, of 2020. Could be 2030. Hard to keep track these days, for sure.
Feels like 10 years in 1 year.
Feels like a long time. But anyways, just to get you guys excited about what we're about to talk about, when life imitates art, marketing imitates movies, intrigue and mystery, inserting it into direct mail. We are going to review, judge a marketing tactic that we came across recently and let you know what we think about it. But first, before we start, I am joined by our fearless leader and general marketing badass, Robin Emiliani. I'm also joined by our savvy digital media savant, Trevor Keating, and new face on the scene, international man of mystery, and our favorite Kiwi, also an incredible creative leader, Derek Ng. And I am, of course, am Mariah Kamei, your strategist and wannabe talk show host. So, guys, Derek came across this very, very, very interesting tactic. So essentially, a CEO of a company received a piece of direct mail. In the envelope was a cell phone that was working, ready to go, and a message. And the message said, "Hello, Joe. I don't know if you're ready to see what I have to show you, but unfortunately, you and I have run out of time. There is one number on the phone. Find a quiet place and dial it." So the question on the table is, put your CEO hat on, obviously not so hard for Robin, and if you received this kind of package, what would you do? Would you call the number? Would you be scared?
My first question is, did the package go to his or her, Joe could be either, home or business?
Interesting. I think it went to his business.
Okay.
But there is always that question about how did they find me in the first place?
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that I think anyone who receives a DM that's anonymous would kind of ask.
Well, as a marketing agency, know that everyone is findable. Everyone.
That is true.
Home addresses, not as much, but certainly business addresses. Which is part of the reason why I asked the question.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I kind of consider when I first heard about it was like, was it successful? And should we say whether it was successful or not, Mariah, at this stage?
Yeah, sure. I think, well, yes, you're right. This is part one of the story, because there is, we do know what this particular CEO did after receiving the message.
So he received it, and he obviously opened up this kind of question to the forum on LinkedIn to get a kind of an opinion on this particular mail piece. He found out that he did ring the number. So he did take that journey that the phone asked him to do. He found a quiet place. He rang the only number on them.
That's the best part. Find a quiet place.
Find a quiet place. Rang the number. And he eventually found out that it was a marketing agency that he had reached out to months and months ago. However, they had dropped the contact, but they were reaching out again. So this is kind of a retargeting DM campaign. Now, the success was that he actually did set up a meeting. So in essence, the campaign was successful.
Well, success also can mean the fact that he pushed this out to the public. And they not only reached Joe, but they reached this mass, because you said it was posted on LinkedIn was where he asked everybody's opinion about it. Yep. So the fact that he broadcast this to the entire LinkedIn public, I would say this is a damn good success. So, and the fact that we're sitting here talking about it, kudos to you, marketing agency.
And it does help that there's a little bit of controversy behind it, and I think it's the controversy of how do you feel receiving a package like this that is anonymous, especially in the daylight today, in the climate we have. If it comes towards you and you receive it as a business and you don't have any idea what it is, I think the question is, would you actually call that number? And I think there was questions about how people would approach it, especially from a gender perspective, which is what was the question. That a lot of the comments on that particular post, and just to fill in a little bit, that particular line about running out of time was actually the central problem. It sounds a little bit, for lack of a better word, creepy. And yeah, and so it's an interesting thing to ask. Like, and I'll ask the females on this particular podcast here. How would you feel if you got an anonymous package that had a phone number on a particular unnamed cell phone, and it said, "We're running out of time. Call this number. Find a quiet place and call this number."
Well, I'm single, so I'd be like, hell yeah.
You're like, I am running out of time.
I mean, I get the creep factor. I get that that's mildly concerning, but there are ways of disguising your phone number, *67.
Oh my gosh, kicking it old school, Robin. *67.
I'm here to represent the older generations here.
Call a block.
No, I remember doing that when you were prank calling people.
By the way, that still works on cell phones too, Mariah, just so you know.
I know, I didn't know.
I may have done it recently.
I think that it was so I think, yes, being bold is generally rewarded. So I don't know if they really are getting any true backlash from it, but I Derek, you hit the nail on the head. Today, in today's society, doing shit like this is crazy. I mean, no, I would probably call it because I think my curiosity would have gotten the better of me. Yes. But I would have been like, WTF? Like, what is this? And the guy said even he was pissed. He was pissed because he started wasting his time trying to figure out who the hell this was. So the tracking number didn't give him any results. Mm-hmm. It was clearly maybe just a little bit more of a clue for them.
Yeah, it was clearly unmarked.
Would he have ever called? I mean, the curiosity was killing him. Of course he had to call. Of course they had to position it this way. Of course they had to be cryptic and creepy, and it makes it enticing. Of course.
It straddles that line between of the creepiness, though. Like getting an anonymous package nowadays, and I don't know, Trevor, if you got a anonymous package on an unmarked cell phone, no kind of tracking number, no return address, no nothing like that, to your workplace, how would you feel from a male perspective?
I don't know. I think I'd probably go through all the things he did, a little bit confused, kind of upset. So I'll use a very B-list version of this same thing happened to me where somebody put a note on my car that said, "Call me," and had a phone number, and it wasn't a potential suitor. It was. I was like, I immediately freaked out. I walked around my car. I'm like, somebody hit me. Great. This sucks. And so I called the number, and it was a hail company looking for, because I had already had hail damage. And so all they wanted was my phone number now so that they could spam call me in the future because I called them. And I was infuriated by this because it was so it felt like a personal attack. But I think given a different situation where it's more I reached out, it sounds like he reached out to them, fell off the radar, and now they're using this as a follow-up. Seems a little bit more inviting. I think given what we do, I love it. I think it's a great, I struggled they said a credit card company sent me a credit card and I struggled to throw away the credit card. I'm like, but it seems valuable. So I couldn't imagine if somebody sent me a cell phone, I would be like, what do I do? Something happened. Something's wrong here. I'd probably investigate it pretty heavily.
And this is
what kind of phone was this? A bird phone?
I really doubt it was an iPhone of any description whatsoever. But I mean, I suppose, and this is where my marketing head went in. I was like, how much would that have cost? Is the first thing. Like, apart from the intrigue and all of that, the first thing I said was, how much did that actual, that per piece item cost? And let's say a cell phone, you can get one for like, I don't know, $50.
It looks like it's LG is what you posted.
Yeah. So I mean, if it's, I mean, that is per. I mean, when you look at the per price for that, that's actually it's a very expensive DM piece. Like, you don't usually send a DM piece that is actually. So I'm sorry, my head's going to a marketing thing. We're still talking about creepiness. I'm looking at you, and I kind of think creepy. But yeah, I mean, it's very distinctive from a male versus female gender perspective role, and especially since the line that was in there was a line from The Matrix about the time running out. So there was a pop culture reference in there, and I pride myself knowing a little bit of pop culture. I missed that the first time. I completely missed it. I was like, okay. And in the thread that he talked about, he's like, yeah, maybe I could have made that a little bit more obvious, right?
What the issue around the Matrix reference? Why was there concern over that?
Oh no. The person who sent it thought that reference would make it less creepy because it's a line from the movie.
Oh,
I think people would recognize it.
Got it.
Yeah, but obviously a lot of people.
Even you didn't recognize it, and out of all four of us, like, you're the most likely to.
Yeah, I'm the most geeky out of the four here, and I completely missed it as well. It sounded even more creepy because of the time running out. However, it did give him incentive to kind of think about that.
Yes, like a sense of urgency. It's brilliant, in my opinion. Creepy or not.
Yeah,
we need to do more research, right? Like, in terms of what this guy was going to be into. Like,
ooh,
like if we had hit Derek with like a Monty Python reference, Derek would be like, boom, you're my people.
Yeah, done.
Yeah.
But then again, if I hit anyone here with a Monty Python reference, I don't know how much would be.
No.
Yeah, it'd be all over.
Trevor, right?
Which one? I could probably get a few, but I missed the Mission Impossible thing. I did not see that, and I still don't even recognize it. Like, to me, it's like they could have done a much more. There's much more notable lines from the movies that are kind of, I don't know. I feel like they could have grabbed a more prominent line.
I don't know. See, this is something I debate because, in a way, having a line that no one recognized.
Maybe that's what we'll be talking about.
Yeah, that's a failure of kind of understanding, I suppose. But having something that is that nondescript, having something that people, couldn't kind of pick out, oh, this is a marketing thing straight away, right? If they had done something like they'd done a card in the Matrix style of the binary code or something like that, then people would go, oh, this is a marketing ploy. However, because it was so nondescript, it actually made people a little bit creeped out. B, should I ring this number? There was a real dilemma of whether he should ring this number because he didn't know whether it was going to be a bad thing but the intrigue was overtaking him. So in a way, it kind of worked by having something that was so nondescript. Oh,
it absolutely worked. And yeah. I think the other thing to consider here too is that this was somebody that had, back to Trevor's point, like, he had actually reached out to them. So knowing the agency knows their audience and knows their appetite for taking risks. Mm-hmm. So I would assume there's been, if they had done this right, some persona work. So they know the types of personality traits, what they respond to. There's actually really great tools that you can use on LinkedIn to be able to see somebody's personality, how they're going to react to certain types of messages, whether it's a sales call, a sales outreach, or a phone call, or an email. There's ways to talk to them. So I don't know. I mean, I think they nailed it and got it all right, especially since we're sitting here talking about it and talking about them.
That's right.
That's so interesting. Like, I wonder if that was their intention or just a residual kickback benefit that everyone, like, because it was a mystery, maybe they knew that he was going to post it and he's going to start to ask around about it. Like, like they unintentionally or intentionally created buzz.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. I mean, I think with something like that, it is an intriguing piece, and I think that it is quite shareable. And yeah, sure, the lens of sharing probably wasn't as positive as what they wanted. However, the knock-on effect is that now people are talking about it. It's on LinkedIn, and other people are going, okay, now that the seal has been broken, I suppose other people go, oh, this is a marketing thing. So I don't know. Would we do something like that? How do we improve it? Actually, can we actually improve it?
I think there's probably some more context that I'd hope they would have known is like, because I mean, we have clients that fall off, and a lot of times they fall off because they've selected another agency or they've moved in a new direction, lost funding, whatever it may be. I'd hope that they knew at least that they were still in the market, still shopping, and just kind of dragging their feet in some way, so that it was still kind of a key prospect, or the timeline hadn't kind of exhausted that much. Because that's what I would struggle with, is it is expensive. It's not expensive in the grand scheme of things if you're thinking about just doing marketing in general. I mean, we could say what it costs them $400 all in. It wasn't like a nice phone. You have to pay for a 1-month self-service plan and then mailing it. I think that's, in that regard, I think it's really great, but I would struggle with like how do you know for sure that this person is still going to be a good prospect if you haven't talked to them in so long?
That's true.
Yeah, the recency thing is huge. I would say, like, I mean, if he'd forgotten about them, it sounded like he had to really like Google to figure out, oh shit, I did talk to these people. So like, it seems like you would want to know they're in market, and also like do it within a month of having talked to them, so it's not so creepy.
So they put the logo on the background of the phone and at the bottom of the letter, so there should be some kind of
recognition. Yeah, that's a really great point. I didn't realize they did that.
Well, here I can show our fans and friends this. If Robin, enable screen share for me.
Hold, please.
Question for the group though: would you send this to a cold prospect?
Ooh, good question.
Ooh.
I kind of like it for a cold prospect. I think it is so high impact, but I think it would have to be maybe not like cold. I don't know. It depends on how cold we're talking. Like, again, knowing that they're in the market is what I want to know, so that I know that it's like at least a thought on their mind.
See, I remember him saying though that he didn't remember this logo.
Yeah.
When it first came to him, the screen, it was obviously on the background screen. He saw that logo, it's at the bottom, but it's got 0 writing. It has like, X marketing agency or anything like that as a precursor. It was just a logo, basically. So if he couldn't remember that logo.
But I think looking at this, the fact that you see a logo tells you this is not, odds are this is not a serial killer that is trying to lure you somewhere to meet you. Like, it's clear this is like a gimmick, and this is done by a company. Like, to me, this makes all the difference after seeing this. Like, of course it's, some sort of direct mail gimmick.
But the logo itself is, I mean, not to shit on their logo, it's very, very generic. Doesn't tell you.
It works in their favor.
What I was gonna, yeah. I mean,
it's a little bit Illuminati type logo.
Yeah.
It's not like a Walmart type thing or anything like that. So it's
back to your point about like binary code. It's almost like, is this just like a weird generic tech logo? I don't know. Like, it kind of seems sketchy.
And then like also the whole, is it like a there's marketing type emails, and then there's that kind of logos from like companies that are just going to spam you for the rest of your life type thing. Obviously they wouldn't send a cell phone, but I would be on the cusp of going, this looks a little bit creepy looking.
It looks homegrown to me, honestly. Like, I'm like, yeah.
I want to understand the experience after you made the call. Is it, because I mean, if you don't pick up, you just lost everything. So like, is someone sitting there the whole time, or did you set up an automated system or a prioritized line? Like, how did they get that aspect? Because so I'm not calling this number twice.
Good point. Good.
What if they asked you to meet them somewhere, Trevor?
In the park.
Yeah.
The edge of a cliff.
There's a calendar invite on there, and it says "Meet me
at midnight."
Yeah.
It's actually a good point. Though. It's actually a good point. Like if you rang that, I mean, would you ring it at midnight?
Clearly they answered because he scheduled a meeting, right?
That is true. That is true. And but would I ring them at midnight? If I receive this, just to be on the safer side, would I
call him at midnight?
Oh, yes, let's see.
Eric does everything at midnight.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, I call them at 2 a.m. just to kind of keep them a little bit as well.
We all are paranoid.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's
society we're in today that something like this would really be that creepy. I mean, really.
Yes, we watch too much TV, Robin.
Clearly, stop watching Dateline and 60 Minutes and
Black Mirror.
48 Hours.
I was thinking like Black Mirror, but you just brought up two channels that are in theory talking about things that really happen.
No one's allowed to listen to Keith Morrison anymore, which, by the way, I adore him.
I mean, but on a serious security perspective, I mean, these have GPSs. You can have you can enable
That's
cameras.
a good point.
You can track these kind of things. So just from a serious security perspective, and maybe I watch too much TV, but anything that has a camera on it, anything that has a GPS on it, that can be considered a security thing. You can put a Trojan in this, all those kind of things. I just learned that from CSI. Trojan.
Even down to the information that whoever set the phone up could get back. You could even determine when the cell phone was turned on. So you know that it got turned on, it's on right now, and they're either unlocked or whatever. I mean, you can set up a lot of stuff to even make this way creepier than they did.
Yeah, it's insert some creepiness, even more creepiness into this particular creative idea.
Yeah, but couldn't it be argued that everything you have, every electronic device you have, is tracking everything you do? It doesn't matter if you're sent a cell phone, your computer, TikTok, your phone, everything you own. Alexa, I turn her off at night because I'm freaked out by what she's picking up.
She's listening, Robin. But we've opted into all of those. Those are things that we've opted in to having. This is a risk that comes into your home or comes into your business without you asking for it.
I don't know that we've opted in. I don't think people know how much your devices are tracking every single thing you do, every word you say. I mean, it's no coincidence that you get served up an ad on Instagram once you have a conversation with your friend about it. I will never forget the first time I had spent the evening with a girlfriend, and she was telling me about how much she loved the Away suitcases and the ones that, you can actually plug your charger into. And she was going on and on and on. That night I pulled up Instagram and was served an ad from Away. I mean, I had never, ever searched for that ever in my life. And the fact that that was served up within an hour after my dinner with my friend is astounding. I mean, to me, this is no different.
How did it make you feel though, when you got that?
I was like, oh yes, this is, I just think it and it appears. To me, it's the convenience factor. I mean, I've just accepted that everything is listening all of the time. So I'm not as concerned. And I know that that is a legitimate concern for a lot of people, including my business partner, Jem. She hates it. I love it. I'm this just makes my life easier.
Yeah, I exploit it. I'm sitting in my house talking to myself into my phone and just saying, I need this. And I'll get ads for it.
I need 20% off of this one thing.
If it was only 20% off, I would do it.
Discount codes.
So, but here's what I wonder about then. So we don't know the end of the story truly, because we know this guy's got a meeting, but we don't know what's going to happen in that meeting. I do wonder though, if some of this creepiness will ultimately have a residual impact on his trust of them.
Ooh.
No, I would be you are a killer marketer. Kudos to you. You found your way to me and you got me a meeting. Well done. I'm in.
I think because they're a marketing agency, it's on brand. Do I think any other company in the world, I don't think every company could do this, because I think that gets very disruptive, but it's almost look at what we just did to get your attention. Imagine what we could do for your customers kind of thing. That's what I think is almost a proof of concept in itself.
Yeah. I remember years ago, and I don't know whether this is like folklore, but we're talking 20, 30 years ago when the creative, he had heard a story about this guy who really wanted to work at this agency. And he sent a coffin to the agency, like a full-size coffin. And everyone was going, what in God's name is this? And inside was his resume saying, I've been dying to get in here for ages. That's
seems like an act of desperation.
That's it. But then again, $50 on a creepy note. $50 for an unmarked cell phone on a creepy note.
Versus $1,000 coffin. Those aren't cheap.
No.
You got a job, so you kind of go. Yeah, ROI is pretty good. Yeah, ROI is pretty good on that. $1,000 coffin for a $100,000 job.
I mean, but in 20 years ago, it makes sense. We'd have the bomb squad at an office.
Oh yeah. We spraying it for napalm or something like that. You're just no. But it brings up a bigger topic of the cut through nowadays. You've got digital ads being served to you everywhere. You've got stashes of DM that's all personalized. Here's an offer for you from the bank, and you just throw it away. You don't even open it. So nowadays it's like even more so utilizing technology, trying to cut through to those people and making yourself aware to them and getting yourself in front of the line. As an idea, this and the coffin is still cut through. A good idea still cuts through. Whether it's a creepy idea is a different question, but a good idea still cuts through.
I think you have to be a little creepy.
I think so too. You had to be intriguing enough to get him to do it, to prompt him to do it. Otherwise, it would have been thrown out.
Yeah. And the line about running out of time, that's a big one as well. Because all of a sudden you're like, is this phone going to self-destruct? Is something Mission Impossible is going to happen to this phone?
No, we're going to run out of minutes.
Yeah, run out of minutes. You're
like, I only paid for this first month, so make sure you make this phone call quickly.
Your credit is expired type thing. So please load another prepaid card. But yeah, I think it's a good idea with a couple of flaws, but I can't fault the success.
Yeah, I'm curious what their success rate was. How many cell phones they send out?
That many to do.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a high ticket item, so you kind of, for what it is. So I don't know. Would I do this? I probably would with a little bit of tweaking. Would I spend $50 to $80 sending it? You'd have to be very selective of who you send it to.
Well, it depends. It depends, the type of deal that you're selling.
Yeah.
And the cost per lead. And
pretty much, yeah.
All right. So everybody, just to be clear, everybody is voting good idea on this one.
2 thumbs up for me.
And then a half with a couple of tweets.
Let's do this.
Oh.
Oh.
Because I read it as desperate.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I was like, wow, they're really desperate.
Oh.
Dang.
But that's me. I mean, I do think it has some diabolical genius to it. I think, to Trevor's point, if they are trying to market their marketing services and they're like, this is the effort we'll go to get you in front of the right person, could work. But it's a big gamble.
Well, okay, Cheryl, just actually based on what you just said, the gamble is they never ring, right? And the person that already...
You now think this company is creepy.
No. I've always thought I'd tweak it, definitely. Right. Yeah. But they reached out to them. They'd come off their radar, right? And now they're back on their radar. But at that particular point where they're off their radar, would you say that, you can't deny their success because they actually, have another thing on it? Would I call it desperation there? There's a very fine line between desperation and a creative idea that goes to do something. That to do something. So, I mean, making people do something against all better judgment.
Yes.
From a marketing perspective is a very, very successful thing to do that you don't see very often. Against all better judgment, this guy called a phone that was completely anonymous, basically, and they got a meeting out of it. So
I think you have a really good point, though, because then to me, it's the follow-up. Like, if I'm already skeptical, and this guy was skeptical too, right? But I'm intrigued, then that follow-up has to be like so good to get me away from making it feel like, wow, you guys are creepy and desperate. So what are you going to do to convince me otherwise?
I've turned it from creepy and desperate to successful and with potential business. You know, everyone starts off creepy and desperate until they land something, and then they're like bee's knees. So yeah, I don't know. It's a fine line between the two.
Do you think it would be better or worse if it was, because it's clearly once a phone call. There's only one number in the phone, so dial it. Could you text it or do something that maybe is a little less? I mean, especially if we talk about male and female, would they feel more comfortable texting a number rather than picking up the phone and dialing it?
Possibly. I mean, I think when we get like anonymous things, there's a recent scam going on about, hi, is this, Derek or whatever like that. We tried to deliver your package. Please click on this link to redirect. I don't know if you've seen that recently. There is a recent scam like that. But like, first thing I did was, who the F is this? Like, just texted it. And obviously got no reply. Looked it up on the internet, go, this is a creepy little thing. Delete. So yeah, it's a good point. Maybe you text the phone. Ask who it is.
All in on like something more of an enigma. Like if I had texted and they'd sent me like an interesting video that like made me feel like it was benign, but also like I was going to solve this mystery, like sign me up. Like I'd be into that.
I think that's creepier. Somebody's sending me a video. I would be like, what is this? This is, if I click on this, is this going to take me down a path?
A rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Or would you turn the tables and just ring that number but breathe really deeply? I would. Yeah, I would. At 2:00 in the morning as well. I just ring up.
Yeah, hopefully it wasn't the poor interns, right?
That'd be amazing. I would do that, actually. I would. Yeah.
All right, Trevor, what's your vote?
My vote is I like it. I love it. I think for, again, not for everybody, but for a marketing agency, it works really, really well as kind of that. Yeah. You're kind of flexing your chops a little bit while doing something off the wall, which I think is respectful. Because I think for other industries, it probably doesn't fit maybe that same criteria. Like what I would define as kind of like flexing your chops. It's like you need to send them something that's appropriate for your industry. But I think this is appropriate for theirs. It's tech-based. It's clearly creepy, which is what most people look for in a marketing agency. I mean, it's funny you rattle off all the weird targeting things and everyone gets excited when I tell you about it when you're shopping for it. But when I tell you how I'm targeting you, you don't like it as much. So
right.
For that reason, I like it.
I'll ask you one thing, mate. Does this have to be to a specific type of client?
Absolutely.
It does? Like, it can't be just like this guy was a CEO. It doesn't have to be of a specific level.
Do you know what company, how big was the company he worked for?
It's something like I think from memory, it's around about 200 to 300, but across the entire board. It's not like a P&G type, FMCG type, CPG type.
Yeah. I think that'd be interesting if you could get something like this to somebody's desk at a company of that size, or would it get flagged as being kind of suspicious package or anything along those lines?
Well, in most of those, for large organizations, the person is not opening their mail. There's somebody that's employed to open mail, so that I think they would be more apt to throw this out or be concerned than somebody that it was, versus the intended recipient.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool.
Well, I think Trevor gets the last word with Derek, a little bit from Derek, because that's not surprising. That's generally how it goes. But yeah.
Awesome.
If you have the right audience, this is a great tactic to think about.